Energy, if we use one of the three mechanisms, if we use pre-combustion, we can produce a vast amount of hydrogen for the kickstarting the hydrogen economy. We even, and I think this ship is actually operated by Total. It's Viking Lady. It runs on a fuel cell with natural gas. That was one of the projects that Bellona worked on for many years ago. And also we were talking about low-hanging fruit, CCS in industry. Germany, for instance, that has a huge problem with accepting CCS, that refuses to transpose the directive on geological storage of CO2. But nevertheless, Germany has more CO2 emissions from its industry sector than any other EU country has from its power sector, except for Poland. So Germany just cannot decarbonize without using CCS. And therefore, in the melting industry, cement, petrochemical plants, refineries, etc. Just a parenthesis, but China, since this is a global conference, it has been calculated, it has been claimed that 3% of the total CO2 emissions in the People's Republic of China comes from coal fires that they cannot put out. The only way to put up a coal fire in a coal bed is to use a massive amount of CO2. So that is also an interesting feature. But what I'm very concerned about, and particularly now that we are in a situation where the global economy is unable, or the global society is unable to reach any agreement, is we have to use the option of carbon negative. I mean, James Hansen is one of the leading economists at NASA. He said many years ago that we in the rich world, we who have spent all the fossil fuel to get up to our standard of living, we have to introduce measures that can allow others to use the similar energy source. How can we say that the Chinese or the Indians are not allowed to use coal to reach our level of standard of living? And one of the ways of doing that is capturing the CO2 from these fossil sources, which is why we believe EU and Norway and America and Australia needs to develop this technology. But we have to do more. James Hansen said we have to go carbon negative. We have to reduce more emissions that we emit. And we do that by combining sustainable production of biomass. This led us, and this closes off my presentation. I just want to give you a taste of what we call restorative growth. Now, so far we have worked with how to deal with climate change. What are the technologies? What are the options that we have? But due to the pace of climate change and the pace of emissions increase, we believe that we have to go beyond sustainability and to go towards restorative growth. As you know, all these questions up there, they are linked together. Population growth, energy consumption, CO2 emissions, food, water scarcity, absolutely, and also arid areas. And this trend, we believe, must be turned around. I think it was Einstein who said that we need to find new ways to tackle the problems of yesterday's, and we cannot use the same thoughts that invented the problems to solve the problems. So this is the concept. We have had a generation of extractive use of resources. We are in the middle of trying to make it more sustainable, but now we have to move over to restorative use. And I mentioned biomass, and if you look at this graph, it's quite interesting because it shows you microalgae. Microalgae is a very energy-intensive biomass source. It is one that will not compete with food production or other land used for forestation and food. And if we look at here, look at how the percentage of the cropland of 1 unit of energy from microalgae compared to sugarcane, soybeans, corn, gasoline, and here's the CO2 emissions. It has a vast potential to replace fossil fuels. So then we looked at what does the world need? Well, we need to develop new forms of biomass. We need to use the existing technology of solar power, concentrated solar power. And we need to create jobs. We need to create 2 billion jobs from here to 2050. What are the best places to do this? Well, we have worked on something called the Sahara Forest Project, where we bring salt water into the desert and into a saltwater greenhouses that allows us to evaporate the salt water and create fresh water. And this evaporation will create outside vegetation, which is a source of biomass that can be used for fuel, for feedstuff, and also to be burned and made electricity with concentrated solar power. So this is our vision. We are actually already starting to build that. My boss called it, it's not Jordan Valley, but if you think of Silicon Valley, this is because it's a project that we're launching in Jordan. It's the Jordan Valley of the Silicon Valley. You use what you have enough of to make what we need more of: seawater, sun, nutritions, and CO2, to produce electricity, human air, which can create new vegetation, fresh water, biomass, and which produces, again, food and bio-oil. This has received strong international support. We've been very lucky to have been broadly covered by many important publications. And we're also working with some pretty important industry. The Yara, the largest fertilizers, they are building a new fertilizer production site in Qatar. Qatar wants to go, they want to use the income from their exports of oil to produce new energy sources that are based on renewable energy sources. We're working with the COVI, CAFCO in Qatar, and we have been very lucky to be given a piece of land by the King of Jordan. So right now we are underway to create the Sahara Forest Project in Jordan, where we have a memorandum of understanding with the local authorities, financed by the Norwegian Minister of Foreign Affairs, partly. And what we tend to do, that this is not a baguette magique, as you would say in French. This is not the solution, but this will allow us to ask all the questions that we need to answer. Because we need to develop restorative growth. We need to provide new sources of biomass. That's why we are working with the industry. We are working with the universities, and universities in the States, in Europe, and in the region. Because this will be what we think the way we need to go. Restorative growth, new energy methods has to be good for people, for the environment, and it has to be good for the investors. It has to be bankable. If not, we are not going to be able to see this. And so I invite you, if you are coming to the next COP, which will take place in Qatar, as a matter of fact, that we will bring many people out to visit our Sahara Forest Project in that region. Thank you very much.